"Here's your gift, the keys to a brand new Tesla. You deserve it," my dad said, beaming as he handed my twin sister her birthday present. The entire room erupted into applause. Then, his smile turned cold. He turned to me, dug into his pocket, and pulled out a single, crumpled $1 bill. "And this is what you deserve," he sneered. Everyone laughed, mocking my supposed failure, but I didn't cry. Instead, I looked down at my buzzing phone, smirked, and said, "Perfect timing." My dad's face went completely pale, his smug smile vanishing instantly. My mom grabbed my arm, whispering in a frantic, trembling panic, "Don't do this. Please." But it was far too late for begging. They thought they were destroying me on our birthday. But they had no idea that I had just spent 6 months setting a massive trap to ruin their lives completely. Comment your city below. The room was filled with the clinking of crystal glasses and the low hum of wealthy socialites chatting, but all I could feel was the suffocating weight of my family's expectations. My name is Adelene, and at 28 years old, I've spent my entire life living in a shadow that was never meant for me. You see, I am an identical twin, but my sister Amber and I couldn't be more different. Amber was the golden child, the polished, perfect daughter who chose to work at our father's high-end real estate firm, soaking up his praise and driving his luxury cars. I, on the other hand, was the family disappointment. Instead of working for free under my father's strict thumb, I carved out my own path as a forensic accountant. Because I chose independence over his control, my father treated me like an invisible outsider, a freeloading failure who didn't deserve the family name. Amber loved every second of it, constantly reminding me of her superior status. But looking around this glamorous venue tonight, seeing my sister hold those shiny keys, I realized the years of being pushed aside were finally coming to an end. They thought my quiet nature meant weakness, but my career had taught me one very important lesson. Numbers never lie, and greed always leaves a trail. Have you ever experienced this kind of painful family favoritism or sibling rivalry? Comment below and let me know how you handled it. To understand how I ended up standing under the glittering chandeliers of this gala with a single dollar bill in my hand, you have to look at the weeks leading up to this nightmare. It all started when my father called me out of the blue, demanding my presence at our joint 28th birthday celebration. He didn't just invite me, he practically ordered me to attend, dropping hints about a life-changing distribution of family assets that he planned to announce in front of all his high society business partners. I knew it was a setup, but I didn't realize just how cruel the trap would be. For weeks, he and Amber meticulously planned every detail of this public humiliation. They wanted to make sure the contrast between the two of us was stark, undeniable, and deeply embarrassing for me. When the big moment finally arrived, my father took the stage, clearing his throat to capture the attention of the entire room. He began a long theatrical speech about legacy, hard work, and rewarding the daughter who had dedicated her life to the family business. The crowd nodded in approval as he pulled out the shiny keys to a brand new Tesla and handed them to a gloating Amber. Then, his eyes locked onto mine, freezing with a cold, calculated malice. He reached into his pocket, drew out a single, crumpled $1 bill, and presented it to me as if it were a hilarious joke. As the room erupted into cruel laughter, my father stood there looking immensely proud of his public execution of my dignity. Amber smirked, holding her keys high, while the wealthy guests whispered about the ungrateful failed twin. They all thought I was broken, but inside, I was feeling a profound sense of relief. You see, what my father and sister didn't know was that their little stunt was the final piece of a puzzle I had been solving for the last 6 months. Half a year ago, my dad had arrogant confidence in my skills and forced me to look over his company's complex financial spreadsheets as a favor to save him money on external auditors. He thought I would just gloss over the numbers, but as a trained forensic accountant, I look at data the way a detective looks at a crime scene. It took me less than 3 days to uncover the horrifying truth buried deep inside the encrypted digital ledgers. My father and Amber weren't just running a successful real estate firm. They were operating a massive, multi-million-dollar tax evasion and corporate fraud scheme. Even worse, they had systematically forged my signature on multiple shell company documents, setting me up to be the legal scapegoat if the authorities ever came knocking. They believed they had outsmarted me, burying their crimes under my name while preparing to cast me out with absolutely nothing. But they completely underestimated what an invisible daughter can see when she is left alone in the dark. Instead of confronting them and giving away my hand, I chose to play the long game. I quietly downloaded copies of every single fraudulent transaction, every forged document, and every piece of encrypted evidence, saving them securely to a private server. The next day, I bypassed our family's regular legal channels and walked straight into the local office of the federal investigators. Over the next several months, I spent my late nights working alongside corporate fraud specialists, meticulously untangling the massive web of lies my father and sister had spun. It was grueling, exhausting work, but I was fueled by the absolute certainty of what they were trying to do to me. Together with the authorities, we constructed an airtight case that legally insulated my name, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that my signatures had been forged without my knowledge. We systematically shifted 100% of the criminal and financial liability back onto my father's corporate entity and Amber's executive accounts. I deliberately allowed my father to proceed with his grand birthday gala, knowing it would be the perfect venue for his downfall. When my phone began to buzz aggressively in my hand right after he handed me that insulting $1 bill, it wasn't a random notification. It was an encrypted text message from the lead federal investigator confirming that the trap was officially sprung and the warrants were active. My father's smug expression froze instantly as the heavy double doors of the ballroom slammed open, cutting through the echoes of the crowd's cruel laughter. A group of stern-faced federal agents and corporate auditors marched into the luxury venue, their authority immediately silencing the room. The guests looked on in absolute shock as the lead agent stepped forward, flashing a federal warrant directly in my father's face. Within seconds, the atmosphere flipped from a celebration of my humiliation to a scene of sheer panic. Amber's grip tightened on her new keys as an officer calmly informed her that the Tesla, along with every single asset tied to the family business, was being frozen and seized on the spot as part of a major ongoing criminal investigation. My father looked at the agents, then slowly turned his eyes toward me, the sudden realization hitting him like a physical blow. The color completely drained from his face as he watched me stand tall, entirely unfazed by the chaos unfolding around us. My mom grabbed my arm in a trembling, frantic panic, whispering, "Don't do this. Please. Adelene. Think about the family name." But it was far too late for begging. I looked my father dead in the eye, took the crumpled $1 bill he had just handed me, and neatly tucked it into his front jacket pocket. "You might want to keep this, Dad," I said, my voice cutting through the tense silence of the room. "From what I've seen in the spreadsheets, you're going to need every cent you can get for your legal defense." The falling action was swift, brutal, and entirely deserved for the people who had spent decades treating me like an expendable outsider. In the chaotic weeks that followed our disastrous birthday gala, the full weight of the justice system collapsed onto my father's fraudulent real estate empire. The federal investigators used the airtight digital ledgers and transaction histories I provided to freeze every single corporate and personal account linked to the business. My father was hit with massive federal fines and forced into an immediate, humiliating liquidation of his entire company just to keep himself out of a federal penitentiary. Amber's dream life vanished overnight as the luxury cars, the designer wardrobe, and her high society social status were stripped away, leaving her to face the harsh reality of her own criminal complicity. Watching their desperate scramble from a safe distance, I felt a profound sense of peace rather than malice. Their own unchecked greed and arrogance had been their ultimate undoing, while my thorough, quiet preparation kept my own name completely clear of any legal or financial blowback. They had spent years trying to build a cage for me using my own forged signatures, but they ended up locking themselves inside it instead. It was a stark reminder that the truth always surfaces, especially when you try to bury it under a mountain of lies. With my life completely untangled from my family's toxic manipulation and criminal schemes, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. I used my savings to pack my bags, leaving that deceitful city behind to start a brand new chapter on my own terms. Today, I run my very own independent forensic accounting firm, helping honest people protect their hard-earned businesses from the exact kind of greed that almost destroyed me. I no longer live in anyone's shadow, and for the first time in 28 years, I am entirely proud of the woman looking back at me in the mirror. Now, I am incredibly curious about all of you who have followed my journey until the very end. What would you have done if your own father handed you a single dollar bill in front of everyone you knew? Would you have stayed quiet and planned a trap like I did, or would you have walked away immediately? Comment below and let me know your thoughts. Meanwhile, I am leaving 2 other incredible storytelling videos right here on the final screen that are absolute channel favorites, and I promise you, their twists will definitely surprise you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next story.